on the virtual machine. So we log into Labs Azure. You start running your virtual computer, and then you connect to your virtual session. When you've connected to your virtual computer, then you'll see that in this window, you've got your virtual computer. From the virtual computer now, I'm using Subin Server 2016A, right? So I opened up Hyper-V. I'll rename that so that I know that this one is for Network Architecture Practical, all right? So I've opened up that virtual machine, and I can see then, once I've opened up the virtual machine, I'll see it. Where is it? It's supposed to be minimized here. Okay, let me just connect to that virtual machine. Right, there's it here. So in this window, it then opens up the virtual machine here. Now, in this virtual machine, I've got Server Manager, all right? So this is a computer window that I'm working on here. Let's just make it more clear. Just want to resize this window, but okay. So there's my virtual computer that I'm working on, and this is Server Manager, okay? So let me just scroll up, Server Manager. I'm just going to maximize that. Okay, I can see it now better. All right, so I can restore down. Okay, and then I can restore up. All right, there we go. So I'm closing this, and I'm going to go to Server Manager now. So in Server Manager will only be found on my server computer. So from Server Manager, I will go to Add Roles and Features. And from Add Roles and Features, I go Next. It's a role-based feature. Next. You leave this as it is. It will select your default server here, okay? Now, before I go and do all of this, I want to, now, this is the process of installing Active Directory or adding DNS. I need to ensure that I've done all of the activities according to my assignment. So if I go back and look at my assignment now, or my part 2 document, it says, firstly, what do I need to do, right? I need to change the computer name. Then I need to type in the IP addresses and default gateway, and then only do I install Active Directory. If you go and do Active Directory installation without doing the first steps, it will cause problems, okay? So let me go and do the first task that they require. So the task that they require firstly is for me to go and change the computer's name. So again here, I can go to this computer and I can go to the Server Manager. And from the Server Manager, I can click on Local Server. And from Local Server, you can see there it shows the computer name, Win366, etc. So I can click on that computer name, and then I can click on Change, and then I can change the name. So it's going to be Subin N Server 2016. And then I'll need to say OK. It'll tell me that the name is a bit long. It's going to shorten the name. That's fine. And then I'll say OK again, and then it will reboot. It must reboot. Okay. So whilst it's rebooting, let's go and see now. And this process is the process that you are using when you are creating your assignment document as well. Okay. So again, I'm going to just minimize that, and I'm going to have a look at what my document says. It says I need to change the computer name first, and then I need to set the TCP IP settings, and they give me some examples here. And then I need to install Active Directory. So let's see how far it is. Okay, so this is still booting. Right. So currently, also take note, when I'm logging onto my server that doesn't have a domain, in other words, Active Directory is not installed, it says log on as administrator. When we have installed Active Directory just now, you will notice the difference. It then asks me to log on to a domain. Okay, so let me log on here. And I'll go now and check that my computer name has been changed, because I need to go and create my assignment document. So NWAR5122, part 2, my group, my student number, on my cover page, my name, the date, etc., table of contents, page numbers, NWAR5122, part 2, activity 1, and then you name and number your screenshots, right? So the first one says, here, screenshot of the computer name that has changed, right? And then also that the server has been installed. So this is showing us two things. It's showing us that I've installed the operating system, which is Server 2016, and it's showing me here, down here, computer name has been changed to Subin N Server 2016. Can you see, right? So I go back now, and I go and I click on my local server here. And you can see here the server name has been changed, right? But it does not show me which operating system, or it does show me here the operating system version, right? So I can also take a picture of this one here, because it shows me the operating system version, okay, as being Windows Server 2016 standard. So either this screenshot here that shows me the properties of the server, including the name, or the and the operating system version at the bottom here, right? So how would I do this? From my computer, I will open the snipping tool, Windows, and I'll type in snip. And then once I've got the snipping tool, I'll say new snip. And then I'll drag across the area that I want to copy. I'll take the screenshot off. And then I'll go into my Word document, and then I'll paste it inside there. So that's one of the screenshots that I could have taken. The other one that I can take is to take the properties like this one here. Either one of these two, because both of them, and it's very, very important, system properties of the server showing computer name changed to Subin N Server 2016 and the Windows Server 2016 operating system installed. Can you see? We do not put screenshots without any descriptions. I don't want 100 screenshots and then I must figure out what it means. You give me one screenshot and you explain what is happening in that screenshot and how does that screenshot answer the question. Very important, right? So this screenshot answers two questions, right? It shows the computer name has been changed and it shows the version of the operating system that has been installed. Can you see, right? So for every screenshot, you must put a description and you write out what is the screenshot telling me. Okay, so that's how I'm now going to keep capturing my screenshots according to the questions that I'm answering. So I go back and I look at what's the next question. the IP, show the screenshots of the steps. I don't want the steps. I'll show you which screenshot that I want, right? So you don't take 20 screenshots for every single step. You take one screenshot and you explain what is happening there, okay? Now, how to go and change my IP address and all of these settings. I go to my server again, and in my server now, I'm working on my server. I'm just going to maximize so I can see it clearly. Right, so in my server, I'm going to close the server manager. I don't need that now. Then I can either right click here and go to Network and Sharing Center. Alternatively, I can right click on my start and I can go to Network Connections. Okay, so I can see I'm currently connected to an Ethernet adapter. I can right click on it and then I can go to its properties. And this is where I'm going to now set the TCP IP information. They also tell me in the case study that I don't need IP version 6, so I can take the tick out from there, and I can click on IP version 4, and I can go to its properties. Currently, it is saying obtain IP address automatically, all right? And I'm going to type in the IP address. The IP address is going to be 192.168. And this number you can change. Any number between 1 and 254 is what you can use here, right? That's up to you. Don't use the one that they've given in the assignment because they said you get 0 marks then, right? So all you do now is you change this number here. I'm going to choose 24, all right? You can choose 23, 26, up to 254. Don't choose 300, 500. Can't do that, right? The maximum number it can go to 254. And then we'll make the server's IP address .2, right? And then the gateway we're going to make .1. So when I click next, it automatically fills in the IP address information. Then I'm going to make the IP, the gateway 192.168.24. That number needs to be the same. After you've chosen 24, all of them have to be 24. Okay, that means they're on the same network, right? So if you chose 10, all of them need to be 10, right? Only the last number changes. So this one here, the gateway now, or the address of the router is going to be 1. And then the DNS server is going to be the same as this server because we're installing DNS on this computer. So it will be 192.168.24. And what is the address of this server? 2. Right? So that's the IP address information. Then I'm going to have to take a screenshot here. So I'm going to close this. It's going to save the settings for me, right? Now, before I go to these settings, I'm going to open up something that's going to show me the server's properties. So I can either go here and I can open up my, I can click here and I can say, okay, let me open up my server manager. And in the background, I'm going to have my server manager and I'm going to click local computer. So I've got this in my background, okay? Then I'm going to now go and open up my TCP IP properties again. So I go to network connections. Now I'm going to be mindful that I need this in my picture, right? Where it says I'm working on Suben server. So I'm going to go now to the properties and then not properties, I can click on details. Does it give me details or is it properties? Let me double click on it. Right. So if I double click on it, it shows me currently that this is the status. And if I click on details, now it is showing me there's the details, right? IP address has been changed to 24, etc. Now I can take a screenshot, all right? So if I restore that, I can go to my snipping tool here. Oh, I closed it. Windows snip. And I can come and take a snip here, right? And you can see the snip has got my server's name and it's got the network properties. Can you see all the information is in one picture, right? That's what they said. You do not just take a picture of something like this here, which does not show me the name of your server. It could have come from anyone's computer. Can you see, right? So we've shown you now how to take your screenshots, always being mindful that the computer's name needs to appear in the picture, all right? So that's now how to change the computer name. Then we're going to do the next part after I've changed the IP address. I can close this now, and I can now move on to the next activity. Did I close my Hyper-V now? Okay, I'm in the server. The next activity. Let's see what the next activity is. So the next activity here, it says, install your Active Directory and DNS. So where do I go? I go back to my server, and now I click here, and I click on Server Manager, and I'm going to add a role and feature. So I'm now going to go through the wizard. Okay, so it says, go next. It's role-based, go next. The server is the server that's selected by default. And what I'm selecting here now is Active Directory Domain Services, right? So I need to put a tick in Active Directory Domain Services. As soon as I put a tick there, it says there's a number of additional features that needs to be installed. I'm going to say, yes, go ahead and install the additional features that you need. So I click Add Features. Then I go next. It'll tell me about the .NET framework that needs to be installed. I'm going to go next. And then next again, it tells me about cloud services. And then I'll click on install. So this is now going to install Active Directory for me, but it does the first part of the installation, okay? And then I'll need to do the second part of the installation where I specify the name of the domain. In the assignment, they said that the name of the domain has to be what? Your first name, initial of your surname, .com. Okay, so once this is done, I'll click on close, but then it's not fully installed, okay? So on the top right hand side here under the notifications, I will see there's post deployment configuration that needs to be done. So if I click on promote the server to a domain controller, right? Remember we said when we install Active Directory, we call it a DC or a domain controller, okay? So I'm going to now click on this that says promote to a domain controller. And from here, now I'm going to answer the questions. So it's going to be a new forest. The domain name is going to be what they told me, my first name, initial of my surname, .com. I'm going to go next. It's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to use my standard password. Go next. I'm not going to make any changes here. If there's anything else that I need to do, I'll do it later. So that's why you'll see I don't click and unclick anything. I always accept the defaults. Whatever is there, I leave it as it is and I go next. Only if there's a reason for me to change it, then only do I change it. So I don't click just to see what's going to happen, right? Because lots of things can happen and then it causes an installation problem. So it says for older computers, there's the NetBIOS name. I'll go next. It'll tell me this is where it's going to store the Active Directory on the server. I'll go next. It gives me a summary. Next. It gives me some warnings. That's fine. I'll go ahead and say install. Now you're going to notice what is going to happen when it asks me to sign on now, right? You will see that I'm no longer signing on just to the server. I will be signing on to my domain. The domain is subain.com. Your domain would be your first name, initial surname.com. And all screenshots that you're going to be taking is going to include that information. So if I look at my document that I've created now, what is the next screenshot that I need to take? There's the TCP IP settings that I need to take. Can you see in my diagram, I've got subain.com, right? There's the server, the computer's name is very clearly visible. And then I've got the properties that I've taken, right? And I write a story at the bottom. Then the next screenshot that I take, once Active Directory is installed, I'm going to open up a program called Active Directory Users and Computers. I'm going to then click on the users that have been automatically created, and then I'm going to take a screenshot that very clearly shows me Active Directory users and computers on subain-n server.subain-n.com, right? So it very clearly shows me all of that information, and then it shows me the automatic accounts that were created as well. Next screenshot, I open up the DNS manager. So for DNS now, I also go and I click on Subain server. Then I click on subain-n, and then I can see a number of records have been created here showing DNS records. Okay, so then you can tell a little bit more information about the DNS records. So let me go and check now on my right. Can you see the difference in the login now? This means I'm logging in to the subain-n domain. So I'll type my password to log into this domain. And once I've logged in now, I'm going to go to the server manager. And in server manager, you'll see that it will, under the roles and server groups here, it's going to show me that I now have Active Directory and DNS installed. Can you see at the bottom here? It says now that Active Directory and DNS has been installed as roles. Okay. To manage them, I go here to Tools, or I can click on these here, right? Or I can click on Tools on the top right. So I go to Tools, and I'm going to open up Active Directory Users and Computers. You can also use the Administrative Center as well, okay? The other one that I'm going to open up is DNS, because I need to manage DNS. So once Active Directory Users and Computers has been opened up, I will then just move this around, or I can even maximize it, make it bigger so that I can see all the details, okay? So just resize the window so that you can see all the details. I'm going to click on my subain-n domain, and I click on users here, and it shows there's the built-in users that have been created. So this now shows me that Active Directory users and computers, sorry, my Active Directory has been successfully installed. I will now take a screenshot of this. Next thing I do is I need to show that DNS has been installed. So I go to Tools and I look for DNS, and this opens up my DNS manager for me. And the same thing here. I'm going to maximize or resize the windows so that I can see all of the relevant information. And then I click on the server, expand it, and then I expand on the forward lookup zones. And then I can say there's my domain that has been created, subain-n.com, and there's the additional details that have been shown here. Remember, DNS is about, it tells me for subain-n server, what is its IP address, right? That's a record now. That's what we mean. There's the database that it's going to be building up. So if I type subain-n 2016 on the network, it's going to know subain-n is 192.168.24.2 on the network. It will tell other computers where to find this server called subain-n server 2016. Can you see, right? So that's DNS, and that's the next picture or screenshot that you need to take, right? So this is the process now of how we're going to go about completing our assignment, part 2 of the POE. You go, you look at firstly the PDF that tells me what is the question asking for, all right? And then I look at the mark allocation here. Okay, I need to show server operating system, and I need to show the computer name has been changed. 4 marks for the first screenshot. Next one, it says here IP address, DNS, and default gateway, 3 marks. So for the next one, it's 3 marks. Adequately promoted and installed Active Directory with settings Okay, so these two here is that one screenshot, 4 marks, right? Then next one, DNS. So DNS, they've given us 5 marks here, right? Adequately added DNS follows best naming conventions, 5 marks because of the name of your domain, subain.com. And then the next 3 marks is for your DNS settings, which is the records that we showed you just now, right? Then provided all adequate screenshots, 3 marks, and then screenshots shows the server's name, right? So every screenshot that you take must show that it is your server. They give you an additional mark for that, and that's your 20 marks for the first question.